Welcome to Secrets Unlocked. If you enjoy intimate confessions and forbidden stories, check the private archive linked in the description. Subscribe, settle in, and enjoy the story. It was a Friday night in mid-March, the start of spring break for the students of Spud University, where Natasha, my girlfriend, and I went to school. I was on my way to pick Natasha up at her dorm to go to a spring break salsa fest at our favorite locale, Salsa Cafe. I pulled up to the parking lot in front of the familiar tall gray building. The sun was starting to fade away behind the thick black clouds growing overhead. Tiny rays of light still bounced off the walls of the building, foretelling of the storm to come that evening. The theme music for Mystery was playing in the back of my head as I walked towards the dorm. When I knocked on the door, the face of Monica, Natasha's roommate, smiled at me as she opened the door. "Hi, come on in." The sound of running water from the bathroom, mixed with the soft Japanese music, filled the room as I walked in. "Natasha's still in the shower, I'll tell her you're here." I stood there with my eyes closed, listened to the sound of the water and Japanese music, just letting their soft rhythms and melodies relax me, breathing in the smell of the steam and water. It was almost like being back in nature. I could feel the sweat start to condense on my back, against my black polyester shirt as I looked around the room. I opened my eyes when Monica opened the door to the bathroom, steam billowing out from the room, the lights. It looked like some stage production. The light fabric of Monica's blouse billowed behind her as she walked in. "Tash, Aaron's here," she yelled over the sound of the shower. I heard a reply but couldn't make out more than a few syllables. "Tash'll be out in a minute," she said as she came out. "Have a seat." A few minutes later, I heard the shower turn off. The sound of bare feet padding across a tiled floor preceded Natasha's entrance from the bath. Clad in a white bath towel, her shoulder-length, straight blonde hair was still wet from taking a shower. Her cheeks were a light pink from the steam of the shower. She grinned at me as she walked over. Reaching me, she put her hand on the armrest of the couch and bent over to kiss me hello, her glasses falling down her nose and clunking next to mine. Monica exclaimed, "Tash, put some clothes on." Natasha pushed her glasses back up her nose as she stood up and went back to the bathroom to change. Monica grinned at me when Natasha closed the door. "So, have you thought of anything to write about for your German essay? Tash has been talking nonstop about it. She'll have 10 sagas written before the weekend's over." I smiled at that last comment. Natasha loved to write and read poems, and as the assignment we were given in German class gave us complete freedom to write about anything we did over the break in either a poem or an essay, Natasha was going nuts over it. "I haven't even thought about it yet," I laughed. We continued to chat as we waited for Natasha. When Natasha came back out, she was wearing a pair of black stretch pants and a black spaghetti strap shirt. She was still barefoot. I noticed the pair of ballet slippers she was heading for near where I was sitting on the couch as she picked them up off the floor. Completing her chosen ensemble, she turned around for me. "You like?" she asked, putting her hands on her hips. "Very much," I said, standing up and kissing her, ready to go. "As the day I was born," she grinned, waving goodbye to Monica as we headed for the door. "Have fun," Moncia waved back. "Stay out of trouble, Tash." "Oh, must I?" she pouted, and with a final wink to her roommate, closed the door and we headed for the elevators. "So did you like that new mystery I found?" I asked when we were in the car driving to 10th and Tango. "Yeah," she gushed. "It was so gripping it took me like 2 days to read it. I was like so caught up trying to decide who the murderer is I can't put it down. I got lucky. I totally figured out who done it before I actually got to that part of the book. I must be getting good at this." She grinned at me. "Wouldn't it be fun to have a real mystery to solve like in the books?" As long as it wasn't a murder, I don't think I could handle that," I said, as I pulled into a parking space near Salsa Cafe. "I think it'd be fun to solve a mystery even if it was a murder," she declared. "Well, so long as it wasn't a gory murder, you know." She grinned at me as we got out of the car and started walking the half-block towards the cafe. As we entered our favorite haunt, bordered by the white picket fence we knew so well, it started to pour. Mark, the owner of the cafe, was sitting on a stool by the door, deep in conversation with another man and taking people's cover charge. The two couldn't have been more different. Except in their ages, both seemed to be about early 30s, but where Mark was tall with long black hair pulled back in a ponytail, the other man was short with curly hair and a brightly colored tropical shirt, smiling and flashing his pearly whites with every word in his deep voice. Mark, however, talked so softly, often it was hard to hear, and he hardly ever smiled, though I had heard that it happened occasionally. I handed him the $4 for the both of us as Natasha, and I went through the door. "How's it going?" he said, taking the money from me and giving Natasha a quick one-armed hug. He was so tall that even sitting down, she had to raise up on her toes to get her arms around his neck. "Pretty good yourself," she said back, coming back off her heels as she let go. "Not too bad," he said as we walked along the outside of the wooden dance floor to the counter in the back. Natasha skipped between the chairs, tables, and people to the beat of the salsa music playing on the speakers. I turned to watch the crowd gathered for the dance lesson, taking in all the bright colors of the girls' dresses and skirts, and the guys' shirts as I followed Natasha. The voice of the instructor giving his oral dissertation on the correct ways to lead a lady for the beginner's Latin dance lesson. "You're not giving hand signals like in baseball. Okay, go to first, swing to second, no, no," as he acted out the movements, much to the amusement of his audience. "You suggest where you want her to go by pulling her arm or pushing against her shoulder like so." Mark's wife, Maria, was Italian too. She worked behind the counter. Around her husband's same age, she was a pretty woman, not in her first youth, but she had an experienced beauty to her. She had shoulder-length brown hair. As we walked up, she was in deep conversation with another customer. A younger girl working the counter came over to us. "What can I get you?" "2 hamburgers, fries, and milkshakes," I said, as was our usual meal for celebrating. "What flavor do you want?" Strawberry." "I'll have banana this time." "Okay, that'll be 10.5, I'll get your shakes." After a minute, she returned with our drinks. "If you'll take a seat, your shakes'll be ready in a minute," the girl said. "Thanks," we both said and went over to a free table, close to the counter, and sat down to watch the other couples. The couple closest to us was a girl helping her boyfriend, talking him through the steps. What drew my eye to her was her bare feet. Having to pad around made her steps seem soft like a cat's. Having started at her feet, it was natural to move my gaze up her legs. They were not like Natasha's legs, those of a dancer, they were thicker. Her legs were shown off very nicely by her white dress, which flared out from her waist to the middle of her thighs. The top of her dress brushed against his dark blue slacks lightly like her quick, soft-footed steps, as he took slower, more unsure steps. He kept looking down at his feet. His short, gelled black hair hardly moved as he'd jerk his concentrated face down for a moment, before going back up to focus his eyes on hers. Over her dress, she had on a red, long-sleeved, unbuttoned sweater. It wasn't tight, and it moved well with her arms and hung nicely. Her head, her long, dark blonde, curly hair swayed side to side as she smiled and grinned at her boyfriend. Her hand looked soft and delicate, cupping her boyfriend's tanned, larger hands. She guided him around, showing him how to move. They barely looked 18 with her delicate nose and his boyish face drawn in confusion. His untucked blue shirt had a very detailed anime drawing of 2 dragons fighting over a pearl. It swung side to side as he moved. He kept having to adjust it over his shoulders as it kept riding down, making it hard for him to move. When the lesson ended, they sat down at a table near ours, next to the entrance to the back, him with his back to us. "Daniel, could you rub my feet, please?" she asked. Natasha, who had the better view, watched, the straw of her shake between her lips, as Daniel took one of his girlfriend's feet in his hands. "Her dress is riding up," Natasha giggled, a little strawberry shake dribbling down, keeping her green eyes locked on the couple behind me. She put a hand over her mouth to stifle her giggles. She smiled at the girl behind us. I turned around, the girl was blushing, but shot a shy little smile back. Her boyfriend looked up just then and said something to her. Her lips formed the words, "nothing," as she smiled coyly at him, though we couldn't hear her because of the music. Just then, the girl from the counter brought us our meals. "Is there anything else I can get you?" she asked, setting our plates in front of us. "I don't think you—" I shook my head, looking over at Natasha. "Nope, I'm good." "All right then, enjoy your meals," the girl grinned, going back to the counter. Thanks, we said to her back, before we started on the dishes in front of us. I started with the fries, sprinkling them generously with salt, while Natasha started with her burger, adding extra ketchup and hot sauce to her bun. She had to vigorously shake the hot sauce bottle to get the last of it out. As Daniel finished his girlfriend's feet, she leaned over and kissed him, then reached behind her seat. In the middle of her neck, we could see a little fairy in a skirt, sitting on a giant pearl, dipping her feet in a lake. She was drawn facing away from the viewer. Her wings were drawn so delicately as to barely be seen against her skin. "I'd like to meet her tattoo artist," Natasha whispered, her green eyes turning a little greener with envy behind her glasses. "Why, your tattoo is wonderful," I said, reaching around her, gesturing toward her back where the tattoo of her favorite poem was. "I know, but that fairy was done so well," she sighed. "I want to get a fairy done too." "Okay, but please, not on your neck." She grinned at me. Leaning in, she put her arms around me, bringing her face inches from mine. "And just where would you put my little fairy?" "Oh, I dunno," I said, as if in deep contemplation. "I think one between your shoulder blades, maybe one here." I tapped her left shoulder. "Naughty boy," she giggled, slapping my hand away and moving in to nuzzle my neck. "Oh, look at those two girls over there." Nearby, two tall blondes had gotten up to dance. The girl who was wearing a lime green wrap around that left one shoulder bare was leading. She put her hand on her friend's back, who was wearing a bright red shirt and tight white capri pants. The girl in green moved her hand from her friend's back and placed it on her friend's hip, before being quickly slapped away by her now vigorously blushing friend. Whispered, "Did you see that? Are they lesbians?" could be heard amid the stir of giggling and conversation of all who were watching. The two girls were giggling and grinning like mad now, watching their feet and laughing the whole time. Their blonde hair fell down a little past their shoulders. They both had clearly never danced much before and were dancing with each other more for comfort than anything. They kept looking at a group of single guys, trying to flirt with them as they danced. Sitting at a stool behind the two blondes, a dark-haired girl about 25 years old had sat down. Her page boy-style hair came down to her chin, straight black and shiny. Her round face was radiant, glowing with a flush in her cheeks and excitement in her eyes. She seemed to hold her lips in a permanently wide, "I just love life" smile, as she chatted briefly with the guy she had just danced with. Her nose was small, her eyes bright and full of energy, and her chin and cheek bones gave her face a look of young exuberance and pleasure. She was like a cute dark pixie. She held herself upright, she was very thin, and her light blue shirt clung to her waist. She wore black pants, which framed her figure. Another blonde girl came out from the back and sat down next the dark-haired pixie. Her hair went down to her shoulders and hung around her oval face, framing it. She had a smile that seemed to say, "I know I'm great, don't try and flatter me." She wore a tight yellow t-shirt. After taking a sip from their cream sodas, the blonde and dark-haired girl got off their stools and went out onto the dance floor. Both the girls were very graceful, moving very fast, twisting their shoulders with the steps, putting their whole weight on the foot and holding it for a split second. Their arms were toned and didn't have any jiggle to them at all. The blonde leading, her right hand on the pixie's shoulder blades, the blonde's left hand holding hers close to their bodies. The blonde girl's hips swayed side to side in her form-fitting cargos, as she twisted her hips and put a foot back, in that way Latin dancers do. The pixie didn't move quite as naturally as her friend, but didn't have much trouble keeping up, if she hadn't done this very often before she was a very natural dancer. The pixie's breasts weren't as big, but looked a nice handful. The pixie said something, and the blonde spun her around so her back was against the blonde's front. To get out of the position, the blonde tapped the pixie with her upper arm on the girl's back, and the dark-haired girl bent forward as she took quick, smooth, tiptoe steps back under the blonde's arm and came back out. With their arms crossed, the blonde spun herself around to get back out. As that song ended and another started, the pixie's friend left for her drink, and a guy with a blue striped shirt went over to the pixie and asked for a dance. They started dancing and were soon chatting amiably together. Her jovial laugh could be heard clearly through the cafe every so often. She kept looking back at her friend over her shoulder, sharing a wink or grin. "Come on, my feet are startin' to itch watchin' everybody else dance," Natasha said as she got up, offering me her hand. Taking her hand in mine, I pressed my lips to the back of her soft hand and led her out onto the floor. Placing my hand on her hips, we started to dance. I loved the feel of her moving back and forth under my guidance. She smiled up into my eyes with hers, then closed her eyes as I led her around the room, just turning around in a box. First forward to the left, then to the stepping back to the right, I saw the pixie's friend getting up and going to the back. Forward to the left, then finally behind to the right again, ending back where we started. Stepping to her right side, I held her there with my arms as I took a step back with my right foot and pulled her over to my left side, as she twirled around counterclockwise to my left side, making a frame with her arm for her to quickly look over and stick her tongue out at me. When the song ended, the pixie released herself from her partner's grasp with a quick shake and went to join her friend in the back, giving a quick wave to Daniel on her way. The two blonde friends quickly followed. There was a pause between the songs, and the sound of the rain outside increased in intensity as it pattered against the window. The next song was slow, and not as loud. The sound of the rain could still be heard over the twanging guitar of the musician. "Do you hear that?" Natasha said, tilting her head to listen harder. Just faintly you could hear sounds coming from the back. "Sounds like our two blonde friends are having fun," I said. Natasha did her little silent laugh, tucking her chin in slightly and giving a little silent little ha. The soft moaning continued, but not many people seemed to hear or pay it any attention. Gradually, it rose in volume and then ended abruptly. The two blonde girls emerged from the back, soon after, their faces flushed, smiling embarrassingly. A little later, the pixie came back out, her eyes deliberately diverted from the two blondes as she made her way over to an open corner. When the pixie's blonde friend came out also, and made for her friend, the two blondes started giggling controllably. The next song was another slow one, so Natasha and I were dancing close together. I spun her around, so my hand that was on her hip moved up to her back. A rather tall girl with a wide, beaming smile for the world, in a strapless tummy shirt, walked in just then and went straight for the man wearing the striped blue shirt. They greeted each other with a quick kiss on the lips, and he soon left and went over to the counter for drinks. "I'm gonna go use the ladies' room real quick," Natasha whispered when the song ended, then headed off towards the back. She ran into a guy in a bright red shirt as he was leaving the back in a rush. Looking around, I saw the dark pixie standing with her friend at some tables by the window, so decided to go over and asked her for a dance. In Latin dance clubs, it's very normal for people to dance with other people even if they're with somebody else. Guys share girlfriends, girls dance together. Guys sometimes get together and do a line dance sometimes, so I wasn't worried about Natasha being jealous if she saw us. "Oh, sorry, I'm kinda thirsty from the last dance," she apologized, but her blonde friend readily consented. Taking her in my arms, we started with just holding hands. Then I changed into the closed dance position, trying to get my hand on her shoulder blades. "Have you done any dancing before this?" I asked. It was a stupid question, but there are only so many leads into conversations that one can think of. "I used to do jazz dance before this, but I haven't been dancing for about a year though. I hurt myself." "What you do?" I asked. "Oh, I was at a recital in the back, goofing around with my friends. I was in the splits, and I fell over my lead leg and pulled some muscles." "Ouch." "Yes, I know. I did that once too. I was stretching out before a kung fu test, and the worst part was I had done the splits before, earlier that day, and I guess I stretch a little further than before, and I heard that snap." "Yeah, I had that too. So I just left it alone for a while. Now it's fine." What stank for me was it was right before a performance, so I had to miss out on that. "Oh, did they forgive you?" "Yeah, they did. I haven't practiced the splits since. I keep getting afraid every time I try." "Oh, that sucks," I said just as the song ended. I hooked my left arm over her right one and pulled her into me for a dip as I looked into her face. "Well, thank you very much," I said, raising her back up. "Yep, I think Jessica's ready to dance now." The blonde grinned at me. The blonde went back to the Jessica at the bar, myself in her wake. Asking the pixie to dance once more, I took her hand and led her out onto the dance floor. Seeing her close up, I couldn't help to remember her face from somewhere. "You were here last Friday, weren't you?" I asked after a while. "Yep," she grinned back. "Cool, you're Jessica." "Yep, I'm Errand." "Cool," she said, little nod of her head. As I spun her into a cuddle, I looked down at her. I led her out of the cuddle and brought her back out in front of me. Then I switched salsa styles on her. Instead of stepping back with both feet with the cumbia style, I stepped forward with the left foot, then stepped back with the right foot only for the mambo style. That messed her up a bit, as the lesson beforehand had been for the cumbia. I showed her the other style several times, but she kept getting tripped up. "I'm sorry you picked the worst partner to have," she laughed. "It's okay," I smiled at her. "Wanna try stepping side to side?" "Sure." On the next step with the left foot, I switched to stepping left then right. She learned that almost immediately. As I brought us back to the basic step, left foot forward, right foot back, the dance ended, and I brought into closer for a dip. By that time, Natasha had come back from the ladies and was talking to the guy in the red shirt over at the counter. "Thanks for the dance," I said. "Thank you," Jessica smiled back, as she hurried toward the back, signaling to her friend that she was going to the ladies' room, passing the barefooted girl as she came out. Natasha's eyes followed her briefly as I came over to her. "Hi," I said, as she pulled me into her for a hug. "Have fun?" she asked, kissing me on the cheek. "It was okay," I shrugged. "Wanna dance some more?" "I thought you'd never ask," she grinned. As we made our way back onto the dance floor, the song Show Me Love by TATU was playing. This was an accident, not the kind where sirens sound. After a while, I let go of her hands and just danced free for a bit. We started playing a little game of cat and mouse. I started of doing a chase. I spun around, dancing away from her and turned back to her. Then she would spin and I would follow her. I started moving towards her, and she'd back away playfully. Keeping her beautiful green eyes looked to my blue ones the whole time. Her lips curled in a smile. As the chorus, "Show me love, show me love, show me love," started, she stopped stepping back and crossed one foot in front of the other, starting a slow turn, matching the rhythm of the music. She continued to keep her eyes locked on me for as long as possible as she pushed her glasses back up her nose and blew me a kiss, ever slow briefly as she completed her turn. Her turn completed, she started moving away from me with me following. Random acts of mindlessness. Commonplace occurrences. As she turned back around to me, we circled each other like two tigers in a cage. Then she turned her back on me and started dancing away from me, so I followed. Then she turned around and I spun away from her, and she followed. As we got closer and closer together, I put my hand back around her waist and gently started guiding her again, pushing to get her to walk in a circle one way, pulling to go the other. "You play games, I play tricks. Girls and girls, but you're the one. Like a game of pick-up sticks. Played by fucking lunatics." As the song reached its crescendo, a bolt of lighting flashed from outside, and Jessica ran out of the back from the bathroom, her tear-streaked face a perfect image of a pixie who lost her favorite fairy dust. "Someone's stolen my jewelry." A clap of thunder boomed and rumbled across the sky, silencing the room briefly as the lights flickered. Feeling the tension build, thousands of more private stories are waiting in my exclusive archive. The link is in the channel description. Almost immediately after the words left her mouth, her blonde friend ran up to her. "What, when, by whom?" "I dunno, Sarah, I must have left them in there, and when I came back to look for them, they were gone." Her voice on verge of cracking. By this time, Mark had shown up. "We have to find them. They are with real pearls," Sarah exclaimed to Mark before getting a sharp jab in the ribs from Jessica. "All right, let's go back and look for them. Maybe they just fell behind the sink," Mark said calmly. With that, he and the two girls went back to the restrooms. The silence was suddenly filled with excited chatter. "What was stolen? Why would anyone steal that? Ewa, she wears those? Gross. I wonder who did it." That last one came from Natasha, a few feet away from where Jessica had burst out. When the three came back out, Jessica was slightly more under control. Sarah was starting to be a little worry-stricken herself. Then she saw Natasha standing there. She went straight over to us. "You were in the bathroom before us. Did you see any rings?" Natasha thought back a moment. No, where would they have been? On the sill of the sink, Jessica said, her voice under control now but still mixed with tears. All right, Maria. Gustav, Mark yelled, taking command, calling over to his wife and friend. Maria, call the police, Gustav, don't let anyone leave. Mark, the police will be here in 15 minutes, Maria said. All right, we'll just have to wait till they get here, Mark said, walking back to talk with Gustav. Well, I don't think you could have hidden a pair of rings from me, not in these pants, I said. Shooting me a look and jabbing me in the ribs, she murmured. I wonder who stole them. It could be anybody, I said. What are you planning to do? Find out yourself, I asked. Suddenly her whole body rippled with energy, her eyes filled with excitement. Yeah, we could solve it. It'd be just like in those detective novels. But, sweetie, we only have 15 minutes. What can we do in that time? Remember, it's not what time you have, it's how you use it, Natasha said with wink. She pulled me over to where Jessica and Sarah were now sitting by the bar. Excuse me, could we talk to you guys? Natasha asked as she walked up. Why? Jessica asked suspiciously. I want to help you find your rings. Jessica and Sarah both looked at each other in wonderment, then back at Natasha. What do you care if they're found? Jessica asked, looking like a pixie listening to a wolf who said he knew where her fairy dust was. It's a quirk of hers, I answered. She shot me a sarcastic, ha-ha, smile and elbowed me in the ribs. Please, I want to help you. It's just like in those detective films my roommate always watches, she said as she sat down next to the girls. They were both looking at her like she was crazy. Did you tell anybody about them? Natasha pressed on, staring at Jessica intently. Well, Jessica began, just about everyone I danced with. I didn't tell you, she said, nodding at me, 'cause you weren't acting like the others. Were they interested in them? Natasha pressed on, leaning in towards them. Well, of course they were interested, Jessica exclaimed, rather exasperated. Guys are always interested when you've got your jewelry pierced, always wanting to see them and everything. But I only told a few about the pearls. Who? Natasha exclaimed. Her eyes were almost bulging out of her head by now. Who did you tell about the pearls? I dunno, Jessica said, almost pleading, not to make her point all of them out. Him, and him, she said, pointing to the guys wearing the red, blue, and stripped blue shirts. Okay, one of them must have stolen them. Natasha trailed off, making mental notes on her head of who Jessica pointed out. Thank you for your time, Natasha said very formally, standing up and shaking both bewildered girls by the hand. Then, stringing her arm through mine, steered me away. Let me see, who was in the back when Jessica and Sarah were? Natasha said as we walked around the cafe. There were those two blondes, the ones who were making all that noise earlier, I suggested. Oh yeah, do you see them? Over there, I said, pointing to them, over in a booth in the corner. The two blondes were sipping some drinks, trying to make eye contact with some nearby men when we approached. Excuse me, could we talk to you girls for a bit? Natasha asked. Okay, one replied warily. Immediately Natasha was sitting done, sharing a seat with the green-shirted one, leaving me standing there. I was just wondering if you saw any rings when you went into the bathroom, she started off. We weren't in the bathroom, the green-shirted one said. We were just in the hall checking our makeup by the mirror. But weren't you too, you know? Natasha trailed off. All that noise wasn't from us. But you were all flushed and everything when you came out. That's 'cause we looked into the bathroom to see what was making all that noise, the red-shirted one began, her voice lowered and she leaned. Natasha did too. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but whatever it was must have been good as Natasha put her hand over her mouth, giggling. By now their conversation was much more animated and free, but still hushed. By the time they were done, Natasha kissed them both on the cheek in farewell, and me in arm walked away. I'm gonna try and talk to that girl and her friend, see if I can get them to talk to me at all, she said, her voice anxious. Kitty and Kate. Who? The two blondes, silly, they were saying that that girl with the red sweater and her boyfriend hardly left their table, and they were right next to the entrance to the back. So I'm gonna go talk to them, see if anyone else had gone in before me. And with that, she trotted off, leaving me standing there without a clue what to do. Looking around, feeling like an idiot, I saw the girl who had come in late, standing by herself again, looking a little forlorn with a bright orange drink in a martini glass in her hand. Seizing the moment, I went over to her. She turned her back towards me as I walked over. Seeing her from behind, I could see the edges of a tattoo, a very detailed one from the looks of it, but I didn't get a good look at it, as she turned around again as I got nearer. "Hi," I said, hopefully confidently. She turned around to face me and flashed me a dazzling smile. "I'm Erin," I continued, offering her my hand. "Jennifer," she replied, taking me hand in hers, giving it a quick shake, smiling again, eyeing me over the rim of her glass. "I was just noticing your tattoo. What's it of?" "A tsunami." "Oh, yeah, I can tell now," I said, checking out her back again. As she turned to talk to Maria again, trying to get her attention again, I asked, "Why a tsunami?" "It represents eternal cleansing." "Is that a Buddhist theme?" "Kind of. That's where we got it from, my boyfriend and I. We believe in expelling negative emotions through subtle pain, so I got this tattoo as my start in that field," she said. "Oh, cool," I replied. She was looking at me like she was expecting something from me, though I'm not sure what. "So are you into getting piercings also?" "You mean like the girl who lost her rings?" "Damn it, I thought blew it." "No, not really," she continued, looking at me a little funny. "I don't think I'd get any piercings for a while. They sound like they hurt too much." Nodding my head in agreement, I got the feeling I had run out my welcome, and her boyfriend was on his way back from wherever. "Well, it was nice talking to you. I'd better go," I said, starting to walk away. "Bye," she said with a smile, then turning her full attention to her boyfriend as he approached. Natasha met me after about 4 steps, bouncing up and down. "What are you so excited about?" I asked. She stopped bouncing, but she didn't lose that adorable little smile of hers. "I was talking to the girl by the door. She said that one other guy went to use the bathroom before me." "That guy?" I said, pointing to Tsunami Girl's boyfriend. Now back at her side, flirting up storm. "I saw him dancing with Jessica before her rings were stolen." "Let's go ask Jessica and Sarah, see if it's the same guy." So we stopped over at the table where Jessica and Sarah were sitting. Jessica still looked a little red-eyed when we arrived. Sarah was holding her hand, trying to comfort her. She looked up at Natasha a little darkly as we came up. But when she told them we thought we had found the thief, they both perked up like it was Christmas. So we all headed over to the barefooted girl's table. "Hey, is that the guy you saw go in before me?" Natasha asked, pointing out the guy next to Tsunami Girl. The girl looked over at the couple sitting at the counter. Tsunami Girl's back was to us again, and her tattoo clear to see, the tops of the foamy white wave crashing down. "Yep, that's the guy. Do you think he took it?" "It must be. He's the same guy I told about my rings," Jessica exclaimed. "Why did you tell him about them anyway?" Sarah asked, sounding a little put out. "Well, we were dancing, and he noticed them, so I told him." "So what was all the noise then?" Natasha blurted out. Jessica blushed and looked down at her lap. "Well, I had to have Sarah take them out for me. I couldn't do it myself. I shake too much." "But why would he steal them?" Sarah asked. "Well, I talked to his girlfriend, and she said, they like to release negative emotions through pain, so maybe he wanted the rings for her," I said. "Ewa," they all said in that, like, "hello, that is so gross," voice. "Besides, pearls represent wisdom in the Orient, and the tsunami for her means eternally cleansing," I continued. "Do ya think that'll convince the cops?" Jessica asked anxiously. "Well, we'll find out in a minute. Here come the police," I said, as Mark made his way over to them. Jessica and Sarah got up quickly and joined him. After talking with Jessica and Sarah, the policeman in charge stepped into the middle of the room and signaled for the music to be turned off. When it was quiet, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, an item has been stolen. The stolen property might still be in the cafe. We need to ask that you cooperate and that all ladies turn over their purses to Officer Brown here, and all gentlemen empty the contents of their pockets on the counter here. Thank you for your cooperation." With much grumbling, the policeman's orders were carried out. After all the purses and wallets were out for the officers to check, the blonde in the green wraparound from before came up behind Natasha and me and whispered, "I liked it better when you two were just pestering us with questions." Natasha and I shared a stifled laugh. but I could see Natasha was a little annoyed at being accused of pestering. "Whose purse is this?" a policewoman asked after a while, holding up a purse with fairy stickers on it. "Oh, mine," the barefooted girl said, coming forward. "We found the missing rings in your purse," the policewoman said. "Would you mind coming down to the station?" It didn't sound like a question. The girl and her boyfriend were led away by the woman police officer, Jessica and Sarah behind them. "All right, thank you for your cooperation, everybody. You may now take back your belongings," the male officer said. "Please show me your ID and your wallet before you take it back," he added in a side note, as everyone made a mad dash for their belongings. "Oh, I really thought I had it," Natasha moaned as we sat down after getting our belongings back. "I was so sure it was the other girl." "At least we had fun doing it. Not bad for our first try." "Our first try? I did most of the work, boy," she reprimanded me. Her disapproving frown didn't last long, though, as a devilish grin cracked at her lips. "We did make a good team, though, huh?" "Yeah," I said, rubbing her back. "Just think, though, this'll make a great story to write about," she purred, leaning against my hand. "Monica'll never believe this." About a week later, we saw Jessica at the cafe. Natasha waved to her, and we went over to her at the bar. "So, did you get your rings back?" "Yeah, I had to have them redone, though. They were out so long." Jessica smiled as we sat down next to her. "Oh, did it hurt a lot?" "Nah, it didn't hurt at all. My piercer just stuck the needle through the original hole, clean as a whistle." Jessica answered nonchalantly, sipping a bright line-colored drink. "So, did you find out why that girl stole them?" "Well, she said she just wanted them. She said she just thought someone had forgotten them. She didn't even think the person still be there. It's funny, though, 'cause Daniel, her boyfriend, is an apprentice at the piercing studio I went to. Maybe it's just coincidence, I dunno," she said, taking another sip. "Did you charge her?" Natasha asked. "No," Jessica said, shaking her head. "She was still so young, I thought I'd just leave it at that. I got my rings back, no harm done." "That was nice of you," Natasha smiled. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but why did you get your piercings? I've never met anyone who had theirs done." "Mainly, I guess, 'cause I wanted to be different, but to have it as kinda a secret. You know, just tell the people I want to tell. It's kinda fun," she said, her grin something between the Cheshire Cat and the Mona Lisa, only we both knew what her secret was. I hope you enjoyed this story. More intimate confessions are waiting in the private archive linked in the description. Subscribe for the next story.